Welcome to Pep Talks with Jeanne. I'm your host, Jeanne Pepper. I started doing Pep Talks as a way to inspire you to do intentional acts of kindness and to further the goals of Blaze It Forward. Since Pep Talks began, it has evolved, and now I use it to interview people actively making a difference in this world through their volunteerism, community service, or careers. My guests are all here because they have dedicated their lives to making this world a better place. Join us as we delve into the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of these truly inspiring and hardworking people. This season, we will be focusing on the quiet superheroes, the thoughtful, kind, and forward-thinking community-minded individuals that teach us about resiliency, abundance, and how we can turn trauma, tragedy, and life challenges into meaningful, intentional action to repair our world. Welcome to another episode of Pep Talks with Jeanne. Every so often, life presents itself with a synchronicity that is impossible to ignore. A moment where two separate paths are revealed to be heading toward the same light. I'd like to introduce you to my next guest, Shereen Rahming. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Rahming.
Close, like top ramen.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Rahming.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, this is a really important interview, so I hope that you appreciate that. Shereen and I were both part of the same interviews that took place to create this book.
Yes, we were.
By Pulitzer Prize-winning author Eric Lischblau. The book is called American Reich, A Murder in Orange County, Neo-Nazis and a New Age of Hate. But how we met each other is really what is so fascinating.
Yeah.
Shereen is a former elementary school teacher, a children's author, and a fierce advocate for literacy and diversity. But our connection goes much deeper than our shared passion for community. In 2018, we were both honored as inspiring moms by OC Family Magazine. And if you're watching, you'll be able to see this is the magazine. And this is where Shereen was featured in the magazine. Beautiful article about her as a storyteller. It is a title at the time, Inspiring Moms, that is, that felt like a celebration of our work in the suburbs, right?
Right.
Because we were just moms, just doing our thing.
Right.
However, we recently discovered that we are connected by a much heavier thread. Both Shereen and I were interviewed, as I said, by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Eric Lischblau for this new book. And in those pages, Eric chronicles the rise of extremism and the abuse that ethnic communities endure, specifically highlighting the racism Shereen faced while living in Ladera Ranch.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our stories sit side by side in the book, mine centering on the murder of my son, Blaze, and the hate that fueled it. And Shereen's is centering on the systemic exclusion and harassment she experienced in her own backyard.
Right.
Yeah, fun times, right?
Absolutely.
And today we are going to talk about that shared history, the importance of representation in literature, and Shereen's mission to bring books and supplies to her home country of Belize. We're going to learn about Belize.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And we're going to look at these difficult stories. And we're going to look how they could be a roadmap to a better future.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what we're going for. So, the synchronicity between us. I mean, we really just have to talk about it. It's the elephant in the room here, right?
Yeah.
So we discovered that startling piece of synchronicity that we were both interviewed for the book. But that was the first thing we discovered.
Yeah.
And we discovered that because you were reading this book. I don't know where you were when it happened.
I was actually at my local neighborhood Starbucks. I was sitting at the patio trying to get through the book, and out comes this woman, this like tall, gorgeous blonde woman. I didn't know her. Apparently she's an acquaintance of yours.
Yes.
Sue. Yes. And she looks and she says, "Oh, you're reading that book." And I said, "Do you know this book?" And she said, "Yes." She said, "I know Jeanne." And I was like, it didn't really hit me right away. I was like,
am I supposed to know who that is?
Jeanne. And we start talking, and I was telling her how I'm also included in the book. And then, she was telling me, you're Blaze's mom. And I was like, wow. And we talked our entire conversation went for about probably an hour and a half, but about 20-30 minutes into the conversation, I have no idea what I think she said something about Blaze It Forward. And all of a sudden it hit me. I think I know who she is. And I think that we were in an article together back in 2018. And I said, did she ever do anything like that? And she said, I don't know. And so we got our phones out and looked up right away. And there you were on the cover.
There it was.
And we were featured in this article together. And I remember, I don't know why it never occurred to me that let me see, I think Eric contacted me at the end of 2021. So from 2021 until this book came out just a few weeks ago, it never occurred to me that the same story that he's telling in there is the one of the woman that was in the magazine, even though I read...
Wow. Okay. Now was that synchronicity? I think Blaze just joined the room. He wanted us to see that there are a lot of sheep out there that just follow along. But every once in a while, there is someone like Shereen that stands out and has an epiphany. Wow. Okay. That was really weird.
Talk about synchronicities.
Yeah. We just had a rock with a beautiful rock with a bunch of sheep on the picture just fly at us. Okay. Anyway, that was quite a aha moment for you.
It was, because I was like, wow, we've been, as I said to Sue, kind of orbiting each other for years now. We've never actually met until today.
I know, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Because I think I need to go back through and look at those pictures, because over the years, I think I actually have had intersection with a lot of the people in the Inspiring Moms issue. Yeah. I need to go back and take a look at it, because they're all like women like us that just kind of got pushed into this space that we didn't ask to be in.
No.
It just kind of happened. I know, like we both kind of commiserate here on the fact that, we're just living our lives.
Yeah.
We're just want our kids to have a good life. We both moved to Orange County from the Los Angeles area.
Yes, we talked about that too.
We've talked about that we both moved here because LA was I saw it as a rat race, and I didn't want my family to have to live that way with traffic and poor air and
not so great schools.
Bad schools. Both of my kids' grandparents were teachers at LA Unified. My husband's parents were both LA Unified teachers before they retired. And my mother-in-law even told me when we lived there, and she would have loved for us to stay in LA with them, the schools here are terrible.
Right. Yeah.
And what am I supposed to do about that? Well, you'll have to send your kids to private school, because I wouldn't send my kids to these schools right now.
Right.
And she told me that, 30 years ago. And I listened. I'm like, well, if you wouldn't send your kids here, and what if we can't afford private school? And
for multiple children.
I mean, for multiple children. What if we can't afford it? And you know what? I was a product of the public school system. I feel that you should be able to get a good education in your home school, in your neighborhood.
One would think.
One would think that if it's a neighborhood you want to live in, that other people that feel the same way about education would live there too.
Right.
So how is that possible, that all the schools in LA could be this terrible?
I really don't know. I know a lot of major cities have the same issues, and living in a big city, there are going to be issues that you're going to deal with: bad schools, maybe not so safe areas.
Yeah.
So I wanted, what I told Eric was the white picket fence in the suburbs. What I've always seen. I wanted that for my kids, and so
smart.
OC is not that far away from LA, and we came down here and drove around and visited Ladera Ranch, and from the outside it's really, really pretty.
It is pretty,
and it's a lot of houses with white picket fences.
I mean, it looks like it should be like in an idyllic Midwestern town.
It's lovely.
It has like these beautiful little you can't even like drive straight through.
No.
You got to go through all these little roundabouts to get through.
No, it's so idyllic.
It's so nice.
Yeah, we met a couple of nice people, and we were like, this is it. It wasn't until after we moved there, after a few weeks, we started going, okay, maybe it's not exactly.
Did you ever feel like, you're a person of color, did you ever feel moving to a place where you would stand out, how that would affect you?
Honestly, a bit, but it didn't bother me too much.
You're confident in your
I am, and we lived in Long Beach for 10 years, but the neighborhood, even though Long Beach is very diverse, even though it was Long Beach itself is
there's a lot of
so
different people
diverse,
there.
but the neighborhood that we lived in Long Beach, Not so much. We lived in a country club area, and whatnot. And
Belmont Shores.
yeah, well, not Belmont Shore, but it's Virginia Country Club.
Okay.
And I went away to school, and I was one of two Black people on my floor, in my dorm.
Oh, when you were at Berkeley?
I went to Berkeley, yeah. And even though it's very diverse there, I mean,
I would have thought there would be more.
well, like I said, the people that I lived with, and so there's more in the school, not as much as you would think, but there's still more within the school and within the city of Berkeley, obviously.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I was used to living in places where I was maybe the only one or one of two.
And I was also, because when I was growing up as a Jewish person, you're kind of an invisible, marginalized community because nobody knows until you tell them.
Yeah.
And I was told not to tell anybody because we lived in Huntington Beach.
Oh, yeah. I get that.
We did not leave Huntington Beach until almost 1980.
Yeah. And if anybody doesn't know why I made that noise when you said Huntington Beach is definitely known to not be,
for some reason, it's
open.
A place that skinheads have been associated with this area. And growing up, I was completely oblivious to it.
Yeah.
In fact, I was oblivious to color. When I was in elementary school, there was very little diversity. There was very little, but there was a little bit.
But that's why you were oblivious to it.
And
no exposure.
If
you're not exposed to different cultures and different people, you don't even think about it.
I remember we had a student that came in the third grade directly from Beijing. He didn't speak a word of English. His name was Po Ching. And he was amazing. I thought he was magical because he learned English so quickly. It was incredible. Like, one week he didn't know anything, and then the next week he started to be able to communicate with us. It was like magic. And I was like, this guy's incredible. Like, what an amazing thing to be able to just go to another country and learn so quickly. I thought that was so cool. But, as time went on, my parents actually got a little tired of living in this area because we lived very close to the beach, but we lived in an apartment complex with a lot of different kinds of people. And it was during a time when the born-again Christian movement was just starting. And it started actually not very far from where we lived. It started in Costa Mesa.
Okay.
And we were in Huntington Beach, which is just right next door to each other. And there were a lot of people in that apartment complex that were asking my mother if she wanted to join them for Bible study. Wanted to know, because they knew we were Jewish. I don't know how they figured it out, I think she probably told them.
So they were like, let's convert them.
Yeah, I think when they first started up, she probably said, you know what, we're good. We're Jewish. Thank you. And then when they found out, then it was even a bigger thing. Oh, they're Jewish. We really need them now. So, and it was just like, I think my parents got a little tired of it. And they decided this wasn't probably the right place for them. And that was back then. And who would have known that it would, that it was this place where a lot of people that are hateful congregate or want to live.
Well, I mean,
I didn't know that.
A lot of people know about OC and talked about it. Quite frankly, what I knew of Orange County was that, yes, it's a red area, one of the only red areas in Southern California. And it's, it's like the home of Reagan. But that never bothered me, the idea of living with people with different political beliefs that didn't bother me. We can still live together. We're not going to.
What difference does it make?
Yeah. But we moved to Ladera Ranch in 2015. And I think we know what came after that. 2016, we got a new occupant in the White House, and with the rhetoric that was coming
you weren't
from
living
that,
here very long before.
No, and right away you started, people started becoming really, bold about their.
I think you're right
about their beliefs and whatnot.
I
and I feel like we entered,
embolden people to be able to say these things
is
that
what
were not
yeah.
polite dinner conversation. All of a sudden now people feel like, oh, I can get away with this.
Not that it wasn't happening before, and not like I said, I can't blame that individual for completely, because he only highlighted what was already there. He only, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it wasn't like he started a movement.
No.
That movement existed.
That was
he
here
he kind of just opened the door for it to move into the public eye, become more visible.
Exactly. So with, all the politics coming right to the forefront, and the, Eric's book talks about this. You started seeing a rise of hate crime and just hate throughout the country. And Orange County was definitely feeling that. That was definitely happening here.
Yeah.
And we had some people right in Ladera Ranch that were
jumping for joy.
Oh my goodness! And
I didn't see that where I lived in Foothill Ranch.
Really? Yeah. No. We one of the people that he talks about, is someone who was an organizer of everything that happened around January 6th.
Your very patriotic neighbor.
Yes.
Yeah. He talks about a neighbor in this that everybody was aware of with the big American flag on his garage door.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't have a problem with people being patriotic.
No,
I love this country.
Yeah.
But
it's what they've taken that symbol.
Yeah, don't associate our country with your crazy movement.
Right.
To exclude people.
Yeah. And so you started seeing more and more of that. And like I said, I do believe that the history was always there in Ladera Ranch and OC, but I think things got really worse around that time. And in the last, for about, I would say the last decade, we've seen that rise.
Well, the incel movement.
Yeah.
It's all kind of part of it. I think I get the feeling that there's been almost like a displacement of people that did not benefit from affirmative action, because affirmative action started before I started college, probably like in the 10 years before I started college in the early 80s, I think, is when they started to, and I don't know why. Did that happen during the Reagan years that they started doing that? Affirmative action?
Honestly, I don't know. I was only 10 around that time, but I don't know when it started, but to be honest, something that, people don't talk about is the people who benefited the most from that were and continue to be, well, it's not, they're getting rid of all DEI, but white women, because as women,
I didn't feel that way.
That's exactly the numbers show that. I mean,
how did white women benefit from it?
Because as women, if you want, they qualify as part of the minority group, and if you want to fill a space with part of a minority, it was easy for people to just say, well, she's a woman.
I think you're right, because I worked for the city of Palm Springs. We moved to Palm Springs, and when I was in high school, I worked in the HR department there, and I used to see that they were starting to make it easier for women to become firefighters, easier for women,
which is important,
which is very important. So that was how affirmative action originally began, as a way to help promote women, and you're right about that. But as time went on, by the time I was applying to graduate schools, it wasn't that way anymore. Now they had it got into the university system, and they were making it harder for anybody. Well, I wouldn't say harder, but it was easier to get a position, to get a spot in a law school, in a public law school, if you were of color.
I don't know if I would say that would make it easier. Like I said, when I went to Berkeley, what was the percentage of African Americans there? Probably still under 12%. Which makes sense, right? Sort of. And people also act like affirmative action meant that you went on just the street and grabbed any person of color and here you go. You want to go to a university now?
I don't know.
What they were doing was saying, if you are qualified, but you come from an underprivileged background, and you are able to make it in this.
That's what it was supposed to be for. You're absolutely right.
And those kids were given opportunities that they would not otherwise have gotten.
And it's a good thing they got those opportunities.
Because like I said, I grew up in Inglewood, California. I grew up with a single mom. I was a great student. I had the grades. I had I earned my way.
What high school did you go to?
I went to Westchester High School.
Yeah, that's a pretty good high school, actually, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It is known for basketball, apparently. I mean, I wasn't one of those kids.
My father-in-law taught at on Vermont Street at Vermont High School.
Okay. Yeah.
He taught honors civics. So he had the seniors. He had the best students in the school went through his classroom. Yeah. And a lot of them he gave jobs in his side hustle, which was his tax business.
Oh, nice.
And one of them ended up buying his business from him when he retired.
Nice.
Yes, a young lady. He used to hire usually women and his that were very good students. They would work for him. So gave them some
That's a great story.
really great opportunities, and most of them went to college, but sometimes they didn't, and it was really disappointing for him.
Because, I mean, that's not a path that is easy for everybody. We take that for granted. I'm always telling, my kids that my mom had to work 2-3 jobs to get, my sister and I through university, and herself as well.
Yeah.
And, it is absolutely infuriating when anybody thinks that you were just placed there because they looked at you and thought, oh, just...
You're right. That's a problem with any form of, I don't know, giving somebody opportunity. Anytime that happens, when one person gets opportunity over another, there's going to be a question, well, did they deserve it? Why did they deserve it more than I did? But, in the reality, there are a lot of opportunities that people of color, people growing up in Inglewood, don't get because their parents aren't members of the country club.
That happens a lot.
And so it was necessary to give people these opportunities that didn't have that.
And I would like to think that affirmative action has always been there, but it's been there for maybe the rich. What do you think legacy is? Legacy admissions.
Yes, in private schools.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's
I think they've gotten rid of it.
Now they have. But but I mean, it's always been there. There's always been.
It kept my family out too. We weren't legacy of any Ivy League schools, so it didn't help us.
No, but the minute that they say we want to consider kids that are qualified, that have done the work, that are pulling the grades, but maybe they didn't go to the best private schools, and maybe they didn't have the the opportunity to take the SATs 5-10 times, because even things like that, it costs money.
I know there's a lot of these things that people that even middle class people, they take it for granted that, they can provide. And I don't think we really have much of a middle class anymore. I don't think my kids will be middle class. I would be surprised.
Somebody else said that to me the other day. A neighbor was saying, I don't think my kids will be able to afford to buy a home.
I don't think that they will. And I consider that to be like kind of a part of being middle class, is you can get it. You can aspire to home ownership one day.
Yeah. And isn't that the ultimate American dream? Right.
I mean, isn't that the whole point of all of it, is to try to give people, have there be a place besides being in poverty? Yeah. Not everybody's going to be the wealthiest, but but we don't want everybody to live, hand to mouth in this country.
I don't think most people are even that way, where we're all sitting here dreaming of being billionaires. Most people just want, like you said, to be able to live a lovely life with their kids, get an education, sit in our little houses and grow old together, and and be happy.
Yes, and now most households, the mother and father both have to work. Yeah, I was fortunate. Well, I was able to make that decision that I could give up and stay home. Yeah. That was okay with me to give up. I didn't need to live in Crystal Cove. Yeah. Which, if I continued working, that could have been an opportunity for us. But I was like, you know what? There's things that are more important than your zip code.
That's something else that we have in common. I actually went back this morning before I came in here, and I read your part of the article. And I saw that you decided to stay at home with your kids and raise them. And that was something that I did too. Yeah. I decided not to go back into the classroom. And stay at home. And that's a privilege. Like you said, really that is really a privilege to be able to.
Teaching is not a difficult job to maintain while you're parenting, because you have the same hours as your children, at least, right? Yeah. It's not as bad as like trying to be an attorney and dealing with the stress of that. It was just too much, and I realized that like in the first 5 years of my practice, and I tried it. I had had 2 babies while I was practicing. Oh, wow. Okay. And I practiced for over 2 years with Blaze, as a toddler. And it was rough. I mean, my heart wasn't in it. I just really wanted to be with my child. I wanted to watch him grow up. I wanted to spend time going to the library with him, and going to the park with him, and just doing things together. I wanted to have those memories. So I consider those years like such a gift.
And they are. That. I tell my husband that all the time. I was like, they're only little for so long, and it goes by so quickly and so fast. And I grew up, and I was telling you, I was born and raised in Belize. And
let's talk about that.
Well, I grew up with my my grandparents and great grandparents, because my parents had already moved to the United States. But I had grandma and great grandma there. every day raising me. And I kind of wanted to be that way with my kids.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the one to pick them up from school. I wanted to be the one to help with homework and take them wherever they need to go.
So you had that yourself?
I did.
Yeah, because you had a close-knit family.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're all still in Belize. Only my mom and my sister pretty much are here. And I have a great aunt who's here.
You mentioned to me that growing up in Belize was definitely not like America. You didn't even have indoor plumbing.
Oh, my God, no.
As a little girl.
Yeah. I was born in a tiny little village called Esperanza in the Cayo district in Belize.
Hope, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I was born in my grandmother's bed in our tiny little house at the time with a midwife. Yeah, so I mean, like, my mom couldn't get to the hospital and nobody really had cars, so you'd have to find someone with a car to get her there. And, and I was born right at home. And, and I was a preemie as well.
How premature were you?
Almost a full 2 months premature.
2
Almost,
months?
yeah. The story goes that the midwife told my mom that she did not think I would survive. I think I was like barely 3 pounds.
That's unusual to survive.
Yeah, and
I mean,
so
even
imagine
NCU.
No incubator, no medical,
oh my God,
training.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so my mom said she literally watched me all night waiting for me to take my last breath because they were like, "There's no way."
But you wanted to survive.
I guess
you got a survivor here.
Yeah. So, but I grew up in this tiny little village. We were the only family I think that even had a television for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, okay, your mom came here with you and your sister. Where was Dad?
My parents were never really together. They were like high school loves. My mom had me when she was only 17, but she had graduated from high school by the time she was 15. And then she was remarried by the time, not remarried, but married, because she never married my dad, but she married my stepdad when I was 2. So by the time she was 19, she had 2 kids. She was married, and they decided to come to America, but they didn't want to bring 2 small children with them to a place where they weren't settled yet or knew how things were going to go.
Was it hard to come to the U.S. at that time from Belize?
At 10 years, I came when I was, we got our citizenship through Ronald Reagan's amnesty program.
So you came first and then you applied for amnesty.
Well, yeah. So my mom and stepdad moved to America. I didn't come. My sister and I did not come with them. We were raised in Belize. We were left behind with the grandparents and great grandparents to be raised while they got settled. And that took a long time. My mom came here and worked, got settled. She applied for, her green card and her citizenship. And all the time that she's doing that, she was also already started paperwork for us.
Okay.
So we came here when I was 10. My sister was 8. And under Ronald Reagan's amnesty program, she got her citizenship. And we were given a pathway to get our green card.
Wow.
And when my mom got her citizenship, my sister actually got her citizenship right away, because if you were under 18, the children were also given citizenship, because people understood, you're not going to separate a family.
Right. You can't do
so,
that.
yeah, if you were 18 or older, then you still had a pathway, but you had to apply on your own, which was my case. Mm-hmm. So I think, we were lucky to have come at the right time.
Yeah. Got much harder, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. We were, very fortunate that, otherwise we'd probably be very much like some of the people that you see are having a hard time now, where they came for a better life. All they want is an opportunity to be educated, to work, to, not struggle. Yeah. And, they're not criminals. Not everybody is.
No.
But I don't think that makes you a criminal.
Wanting to have a better life.
Yeah.
Not usually.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I've found that in this universe, everything is all things. You know, it just depends on how you look at it.
Yeah.
So you want to look at people as criminals? Yes, they broke the law when they came here without following U.S. laws, but how do you characterize, somebody wanting to have a better life as a criminal? It seems so harsh.
Right.
Especially when we all have immigrant backgrounds.
I was just going to say that.
Every
I'm
one of
like,
us.
I don't think that this country is in any position to criticize anybody about immigration or how you came here. I really don't. But here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you have people that, think that this country is only for one person, one type of person.
Yeah.
And everybody else must go.
Yeah.
Like it's just so this thought process, and it's not new. These aren't new ideas.
No.
These are the same ideas that caused World War II.
Yes.
So,
we're reliving a lot of history.
Can we learn from history?
Apparently not.
Yeah. No, we can't.
And which is really sad.
Especially when these ideas that shouldn't even exist anymore are thriving in a place that's affluent.
Right.
How in the world do people that are educated and have good jobs, how do they allow this to fester in their home, in their neighborhood? In their community, and they're aware that these things are going on, and that their children are learning this disgusting theologies and
lack of exposure, the ignorance. It's what I always say: if you're not teaching your kids, they're learning it somewhere else. Not teaching them is teaching them, and if you're not, explaining and exposing them to different cultures and different people and the world, and you live in a bubble.
I think
this is what you get. And I think that's what I found when I got to Ladera Ranch. Everybody laughs and they go, we live in a bubble here, because it's so idyllic, and some people call it like Disneyland. And that sounds appealing, but what happens is, okay, great, you live in a bubble, so you're not exposed a lot to anybody on the outside, and your kids are growing up not learning that this is not the real world. You're fortunate to be here, but this is not what everybody lives like. Do
people leave Ladera Ranch because of the way they're treated there? Like, I know we did,
and I know people who did. I know families who absolutely did.
They just couldn't take it.
Yeah, like, I'll be honest. We didn't see the worst of some of the bullying that I saw there for other families.
Yeah. Well, there was a Chinese family maybe, or Asian.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, Eric talks about this particular family that was being harassed terribly by just punks in the neighborhood. I think it started out as
the teenagers were harassing them, and it got so bad that the neighborhood people in the neighborhood had to form watch groups 24/7 around their house,
because law enforcement would not help them.
They would not. They wouldn't do anything about it at all. They were like, build a fence, get a camera, and that does absolutely nothing. So the community had to protect them. The community had to come out and do the job of law enforcement. So there are people there who know and understand and try, but I have no idea why it seems like always the loudest voices, the ones are the bullies. And do you know what I mean? And they seem to thrive, because I don't think it's everybody there at all. I met a lot of wonderful people there, but at the same time, sometimes people look the other way. If it's not impacting you, why get involved? Yeah. And I think I got tired of that. There were, like I said, incidents like that were beautiful, where you saw a community coming together to protect a family. Yeah, I mean, that is kind of amazing. But there were lots of other, incidents where no one said or did anything. And I know families, like I said, that they were just like, enough, I'm leaving. This is not what I signed up for. I didn't come here I didn't know it was like this. Yeah. I think the terrible behavior that we saw, like when Blaze was in school, and we had, there were kids that were tormenting him on the bus and calling him gay and hitting him. And they were bullies, these kids. And one of them, God, I'll never forget it. The father called us up and said, we'd like to talk to you about what's going on with our kids on the bus. And I said, okay. And this is one of the offenders. And this kid, not only did he torment Blaze on the bus, but he and another kid that lived in our neighborhood decided it was a good idea to vandalize the front of our home. Oh.
Yeah. So they had come to our house and they took sunscreen because the mother, that was another thing we figured out. It must be this kid because his mother drove the Coppertone van to pick him up from school. And they decided it was a good idea to use sunscreen and write all kinds of disgusting stuff on our car that was parked in front of the house.
Oh my goodness.
And the sidewalk and, you know, and then they left a bunch of condom wrappers, open condoms all over the front door.
Oh,
so,
wow.
you know, very mature activity.
Right?
And so the father called us up, or we called them, and he said, we'd like to talk to you. We said, sure, come on over. So the man comes over. He says, I want you to know I was a middle school teacher. And so I know kids. And he said, and my son has some learning disabilities, which was pretty obvious. Like Blaze had explained that to us, that this was a kid that probably needed to have, you know, special education. Mm-hmm. And we asked him, we said, well, what's Blaze doing? You know, is he doing something to bother your son? Is that why your son is bothering him? Mm-hmm. And he says, well, your son said that my son was stupid. And we said, oh, is that so? Okay, well, you know, that's not nice. We'll get to the bottom of it. We asked Blaze about it later. We said, Blaze, what did you say to this kid that got him so angry with you? And he said, well, he was doing stupid things on the bus. So I said, you're doing stupid things. He said, I never told him he was stupid. I just said, you're doing stupid things. Yeah. You know, it's stupid to do that, you know. And he took it, you know, because he's stupid. He took it the wrong way. And so, you know, it's like, I don't think that that the father or the kid were able to see the nuance of that there is a difference.
So because he was called stupid, he went full anti-Semitic.
He just went like full, I'm going to just terrorize Blaze on the bus. I'm going to terrorize his family. And, you know, we made it clear to the father that if it didn't stop, we would have to, you know, go to the school and take care of it. You know, we didn't want to have to do that.
And good luck with that. I mean, in our neighborhood, there were lots of incidents where the school, and I think that's ultimately why we left, was the school was not protecting the children. They were actually, the general idea is to sweep it under the rug because we don't want to pretty up or mess up our pretty image. Yeah. And
what happened to your family during the time that they lived there? Did you have any specific incidents?
I like I said, my kids were fortunate not to have too many things happen to them. There was two incidents with my daughter where a child, you know how children, they share a desk, they have the dual desks or whatever. The child who sits next to her brought a flask and decorated it with the Confederate flag. You know, put
a
it
flask, like for alcohol.
You know, well, no, what is it? The giant water bottles.
A water bottle.
Yeah,
she made a Confederate flag water bottle.
And she placed it like right on their desk. Now, the other issue I had with it, but other than she brought a Confederate flag, was nobody seemed to think that this was something.
The teacher didn't.
The teacher did not mention. My daughter had to get up and tell the teacher, "I'm not comfortable with that on my desk." And the principal called me one day, and I mean, I was so proud of my daughter for standing up for herself, which is something I've always taught her. And they called the child's parents and said she can't bring that to school anymore. And the principal told me the parents apologized and said, well, we didn't mean to offend anyone. We were just taking a tour of the South and brought back memorabilia. And I'm like, you thought Confederate flag would be great memorabilia to bring back. And then there was another incident where, like I said, at the height of this new presidency, the whole build a wall thing, some kids came up and were chanting to my daughter and a couple of her friends in their faces, build a wall, build a wall. And that was like the extent of like what directly happened to her. But I saw other things with other students. Like I was standing in a park one day and one of the only African-American boys came up and asked me for help. And I was talking to a friend and I was like, sure, sweetie, what do you need help with? And he was like, those kids are bullying me and they're calling me the N-word. And it was a park full of, parents and children. And I remember going off on them going, do you not hear anything? And the kids finally admitted, yeah, this is the kid that's doing it. And the mom was like, I don't know where he gets that from. He didn't learn it from us. And I'm like, well, if you're not teaching him that that's not okay, guess what? He's picking it up from elsewhere. It's always, I didn't do anything. That same African-American child ended up being suspended for a fight that he got into with 3 or 4 of the white boys in the school. Even though those were the same boys, I believe, that were bullying him. He walked away, the only one with any physical injuries. I saw him, he had a black eye, but he was the only one who was suspended because they all said that he picked on them, 1 against 3 or 4. And if you saw this kid, he was, petite, smaller kid, and not a violent bone in his body. Like I said, this is a kid who came up to me and asked me, can I help him? So it was very obvious. After that, I went to my husband and I was like, yeah, at the time, our son was in kindergarten, and I was like, it's only a matter of time before it's him too.
Oh gosh.
So we need to get out of here.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, we had our share of little things that happened at the school that I didn't like. And they were generally like very just clueless. Like people were just basically very ignorant of Jewish culture. Yeah. And very careless in the way that they went about doing their holidays and their, whatever it was that they did to, promote their belief systems. They were just very careless about it and just very insensitive. I mean, it really started like right away. I mean, I never really noticed it until I was pregnant with my daughter when Blaze started kindergarten. And one of the first things that she did that was a tip off that this was not going to be an easy thing for us was it was right before Thanksgiving. She sent home this assignment with the kids called Holidays Around the World. And every child was going to be allowed to present their holiday, whatever it may be, for like a good part of the morning. I mean, kindergarten's only 3 hours. So like for about 30 minutes every morning, we were going to have a kid being able to do this. Oh, and by the way, the parent is allowed to help them do this. So basically what happened was parents were given an opportunity to promote their religious beliefs in a classroom. And because we had 40 kids in the class and we could only do it for 30 minutes every day, this was going to go on until February. And we were starting before Thanksgiving. So from November through February, my child would be learning about other people's religious beliefs as if they were golden.
Yeah,
that's
the standard,
right?
for all of us.
That's right, because everybody seems to not have the same belief systems that we did. In a classroom of 40, there were 2 kids that didn't celebrate Christian holidays out of 40 kids. So, this is how much of his education in kindergarten was going to be consumed with this. It was ridiculous to me. And it's not a great idea to upset a pregnant woman, because this happened Thanksgiving. I had my daughter was born on December 13th. Okay. So a couple of weeks later. So I didn't catch wind of it and figure out what was going on until one of my neighbors said, oh, by the way, did you know they started that assignment the other day? And such and such's child went home with the book and the assignment, because every day a different kid got to take the book home and then bring it back with their project. And I guess the first day they did it, Blaze was given birthday cake to celebrate the birth of Jesus. Oh. Because that's how that family celebrated Christmas. They actually didn't do anything normal that people do for Christmas. They just had a big birthday party for Jesus. That was what they did. And so I'm like, well, that's lovely, but it's so not necessary to teach kids this in kindergarten. I mean, why does my son need to learn about this for 2 or 3 months of kindergarten? So I went into the school and I talked to the principal about it. And he said, you're right. It shouldn't be happening. But, this is a really Baptist area that you live in. And the families like this. They like doing this. And you're going to be taking this away from them. And I don't know how this is going to affect your family socially if you do this, if you make a big stink about it. He's like, you have every right to. I'll support you, but I'm just letting you know this is. And he was a pretty wise man. He was very wise and very nice and smart about it. And I said, I understand that, but I don't like this. It needs to stop. And so the teacher sends a note home the next day with all the kids saying, one of the parents has decided that this assignment is not work with their religious values. So we're not going to have it anymore. This is an assignment that everybody loves, and everybody's done it before with their other kids that went through the classroom, and now they don't get to do it anymore. And everybody knew it was us. And so my neighbor says to me, "Did you see this paper that came home with the kids? What do you think about this?" I'm like, "No, it didn't go home with us." Shocking. That paper didn't go home with our family. So that made me really angry. That like we were set up to be the weird family.
Yeah.
In kindergarten.
How do you think they would have reacted if you wanted to do if it was the opposite way? It was your religion and Blaze was trying to teach them. I'm wondering if they would have been.
Well, I told the teacher that I would like to have an opportunity to celebrate Hanukkah with the kids if they were willing to do it, because Hanukkah is not really a religious. It's just a cultural. It's a cultural.
Were they open to it?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
So every year I made a point of doing it because there was so much going on in the classroom that I didn't want to take away from the kids, like all of the cute songs and the cute art project,
But doesn't it say something that you as the mom had to go in yourself? And because I did something.
Do it?
Right. Well,
I don't want them teaching Hanukkah.
Well, maybe that's true. Well, I did something similar when my son was in kindergarten at the Ladera Elementary School where he attended. For February is Black History Month. And I asked them, what are you doing to, honor Black History Month, just to mention, the history. Yeah. And the teacher was like, nothing. But she got an attitude and she looked at me and because I said nothing, and she looked at me and she said, "Why, do you want to do it?" And I looked right at her and I said, "Sure, I'll do it."
Well, you're an educator. Of course you would do it.
So I went home and I put together an entire lesson. And my son and I got in front of the classroom and we did a whole lesson. We made booklets for each and every child.
How amazing is that?
Yeah, and we sent it home. And actually the response from the parents was great. Everybody was like, "We should do this all the time."
You should. They should.
It's great. But my response was, why do I have to do it? Like, as the parent, I know, yes, I'm an educator, but
as soon as you leave, it won't happen again.
Exactly. I'm like,
I know it's frustrating, isn't it? I feel that's kind of like how I felt about it. Like, I get it. I know why it's like this, but it's frustrating to me that I'm the only person. If I don't do something, nobody will.
Right.
And nobody will care. And it will just continue to be this way. And it probably went right back to being that way.
Right.
After we left, So, I don't know what the answers are, because people like living in homogeneity.
They do. They do.
Just do.
And that's the problem, is that, we don't go outside our bubbles to learn about others.
No.
We don't. And right now we're living in a time where they're banning books that are teaching kids.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, they're banning books that are teaching kids about other cultures.
They're banning classic literature.
Yeah, literature, yeah. I can't remember one of the books the other day that I read that was on the list, and
Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451. Like, that cracked me up. Like, really? You're gonna go burn Fahrenheit 451?
There's so many. There's so many. I was like, it's crazy that we're living through all that, but anything that refers to anyone that's just has a different story. And,
I think this is the way that primitive societies evolve.
Yeah.
Because, at some point, if you ever want to be like Starfleet, like if you ever want to be like a really modern society where these things, and if you look at the way they portray modern societies, people don't discriminate anymore, and people don't have radical beliefs that are weird unless they're from another planet. It's like, if you want to have radical beliefs, great, but can they make sense?
Right.
Right. Can we talk about it? Like, can we sit down and talk about it? Because if you can't even sit down and talk about it without, pulling out a knife and trying to kill me,
right?
It's like there's something not right. We're primitive.
No. Yeah.
We're really very primitive still. And I don't know what it's going to take for us to, I think that we're kind of going through this I feel like there's a lot of aggravation and frustration now with the changes that are occurring, because they're happening very fast with technology. And there's a lot of fear. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things driving that fear. People are worried that they're going to become obsolete.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of the immigration issues that we're seeing is related to that.
You do?
I do. I think that it's part of us gearing up for a new age where we don't have jobs for people that aren't highly educated anymore.
So we just decide to get rid of an entire group of people, but let's
Wouldn't
not
that be convenient?
But yeah, but let's not forget that also we had the Supreme Court pass this ruling that says you can actually stop people based on race, and that's what's happening right now. I know people who have been stopped and asked for their passports.
Do you carry yours with you?
I don't, but I've been advised to.
I think I would.
So I don't want to lose my passport, because I feel like if I lose my passport, then they
might destroy it or
right.
take it from you.
Yeah. So I don't carry my passport, but I know people who do.
You must be afraid when you hear these stories. Are you afraid?
I don't live in fear. Really?
In Coto de Caza, you probably don't need to.
Well, it's the gated community. Well, I got to tell you, so I'm not sure if I was targeted or not. I went to the grocery store a few months ago, and I was like in the frozen food section buying like frozen pizza or something. And this woman comes up, and she came off at first, pretty friendly. She just said hi. I said hello, and she started up a conversation with me, which I thought was really odd in a grocery store.
People seem to feel very comfortable just approaching you in the middle of nowhere to have a full-on conversation, right?
They do, but this particular woman, it went sideways real fast, because the questions started getting very personal and strange, and I kept trying to get away from it. When you have that instinct that something is off, but you just don't want to be rude because you're not sure. So you're just like, okay, I'm just going to keep talking to her. There's something wrong with this one. But she just kept asking me. She was trying to figure out like where I'm from and what do I do for a living and all this stuff. And I was like, who has a conversation like this with a complete stranger in the middle of the grocery store? Like, just right. And she wouldn't like leave. And I realized then something was off when I think the grocery store manager or one of the workers came up, and he gave me a look like, when somebody like, you good? Are you okay? And I kind of looked at him and nodded like, yeah, I'm good. And then he looks at her and he's like, can I help you find something? And she was like, no, we're just having a conversation. And I'm like, a very weird conversation. Finally, I explained to her I need to go. And then I see her out in the parking lot with a gentleman who looked kind of, I don't know, made me wary.
Cop?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, he didn't look too friendly. And they were having and her whole demeanor had changed. She was no longer friendly. They were looking around the parking lot, and they were just kind of like, they're hanging out. And
intimidating.
And I went home and I told my husband, I was like, I just had this very strange encounter with a couple people at the grocery store. And he looked at me and said, did it ever occur to you that might have been ICE and they were kind of checking you out?
And that was a few months ago.
Yeah, he was like, they might have been questioning, trying to get, figure out, are you someone that they can,
like
pull over?
Really?
Yeah,
like
but I don't. Well, no, I was at the grocery store. Well, this was outside the gate, but this was outside the gates, and that was the first time that I actually was glad that I was like, oh my god, I can like drive home and they can't follow me, like inside the gate. It is, but like I said, I don't know for sure, but I do know people who have been pulled over and asked for their passport. I know family and friends who are now carrying their passports with them, and I gotta say this, I know immigrants who are from European countries and who are white, and I don't know any of them who are living with the same kind of fear or anything. Like, they're not scared. They're like, yeah, I'm good.
Unless they're criminals.
Which
right?
I don't know.
And even that might
I'm like,
well,
I don't know anybody who, who is, but
yeah,
not that I know.
Plenty of white criminals that seem to be running around doing just fine in the White House.
So, you're right. But my point is like, everybody that I know who is a black or brown immigrant. Yeah, we're wary. And like I said, I'm an American citizen, and my mom is an American citizen, and different people are, telling us you need to start carrying your passport or.
So let's talk more about this book. This book that's probably going to become like the number one on the New York Times bestseller list this week.
Yes.
Who knows?
Yes.
But when you first learned that we were both in it, and that we were both in the Inspiring Moms thing. That must have been like, how did that, what was going through your head?
It was an aha moment, like, whoa. I think Sue, who saw me reading the book, and like I said, 20-30 minutes into our conversation, something hit me. In 4 years of talking to Eric, it didn't occur to me that it was you. And then all of a sudden I was like, it's her.
Shereen, how did it feel to see your personal experience of racism documented in a work that connects local experiences to a larger narrative of extremism?
It was, Eric called me at the end of 2021 and asked if we were interested in doing this. And we had done, and we were part of an article before. I can't remember what year.
Is that how he found you?
Probably. I don't know how he found us. But this was an LA Times article that chronicled the rise of left-wing or right-wing extremism in Orange County.
Oh, that's how.
And so I was one of the only people that agreed to talk in that article. And I think give my name and everything. So we kind of touched on our experiences a little bit in that article.
Okay.
And Eric's book goes even further in tying it to how it is also happening nationwide. And it felt really good to be able to say, yes, this is happening, because I feel like you and I talked before, and a lot of people don't want to address these issues. And in Ladera Ranch, I feel like I said it's swept under the rug.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of like, no, we're not going to do that anymore, because that's the problem. How can you fix anything? How can you come up with solutions, like you were always saying, if you don't even address the issue?
Yes. And people don't want to address these issues because it doesn't look good.
No. Yeah. It's much more important to keep the pretty image, the Disneyland image, the bubble.
It affects property values when you start
does.
talking about people being hateful and harassing other people. Nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know that about Ladera. And now that I do, like, it just sounds like a place where, stupid people live.
Well, not all. Yeah. Let me be fair. Not all. Like I said, you do have a community where a group of people came together to protect an Asian family. Which is that
there's a lot of nice people that live there too.
Yeah. And we can talk later on the difference between nice and kind as well.
Yeah, there is a difference. I'm glad you brought that up.
There is a huge difference. And I think Ladera's motto is everybody's nice. Everything is nice all the time. Whatever you're walking down the street and you see the N-word spray painted. Shh.
Yeah. Or you clean that up.
Yeah. Or, like I said, I'm running down the street and I see, a swastika carved into a tree. And
is that something you would see?
Yeah. Both those incidents. Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Things like that would happen, but nobody would really address them. Or if it is addressed, people would kind of would make excuses for it. If a kid
it's kind of like Orange County's dirty little secret.
It is. That's exactly what it is.
And you know why it's a dirty little secret? Because it's everywhere. It's not just in Ladera. I have a girlfriend that's a teacher in Newport Mesa Unified School District. She's a substitute teacher, and sometimes when she would be substituting in the high school, she was substituting long-term in one of the classrooms, and there was a swastika that had been carved into one of the desks, and it looked like it had been there for a while. Mm-hmm. And she reported it, and she said, this needs to be cleaned up. And they said, okay, yeah, we'll get to it. And it remained there on the desk for a couple of weeks, and she complained about it again. And I don't know if they ever removed it, but it was like they just didn't really seem to take it seriously.
No.
Like how awful that is for a student to have to look at that every day on their desk.
It's what I was saying about my daughter and the Confederate flag. Like, nobody thought it was a problem. She had to get up and be like, I don't want to look at this. I'm offended.
That your daughter knew what that was and could say something.
Oh, we don't hide this from them. It's kind of, what is it? The talk that that Black people have to have with their kids at a very early age, because and I don't have the luxury of hiding this stuff from my kids because they're at the receiving end of it. So when you have people who are like, oh, well, I don't talk to my kids about this because it's just too heavy. Well, that's part of the problem.
Well, that's why your kid is an incel.
Congratulations. Yeah. I'm like, I have to teach my kids this stuff because it's part of protecting them. They need to know what it is when it's, when it does show up in their lives.
Right.
But yeah, so that's something that I feel like Eric also touches on in his book, as he was talking about in Orange County, that a lot of this stuff gets hidden and swept away by politicians, by people in power, because we want to keep this image of, Orange County with, like I said, the houses with the white picket fence and the beautiful beaches and the amazing schools. But nobody wants to talk about, like you said, the dirty little secret, everything that happens behind.
Yeah, these things are not
or the orange curtain.
You're right, the orange curtain. They're not publicized, and institutions don't really want to acknowledge them.
No.
So they would rather just go clean it up and not talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
Or just get you to be quiet about it. They'll say whatever they have to do to get you to be quiet.
And I feel like a lot of people think that the real problem for them is not that it's happening. It's people like me and you who are talking about it and bringing it out into the open. Like, why can't you just be quiet? They're more offended by the fact that people are talking about it than about the fact that it's happening at all.
Right. Because when we talk about it, then when they do it, other people can notice and say, oh, that's what she was talking about.
Right.
Yeah. Now it could actually confirms our narrative.
Right.
So they can't get away with it as easily now.
Right.
Because they will confirm the narrative.
Right.
But it is fascinating to me that I did see, I know I'm not supposed to look at the comments, but I did see some comments that were made about the book. Mm-hmm. So the book, people were writing, really nice reviews of this book. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at the comments about the reviews, and the reviews were people saying, this is nonsense. This isn't really happening. I've never seen anything like this.
I beg your pardon, but everything in there, I believe he interviewed people, and those are our lived experiences. You don't get to tell me what my lived experience is.
Right.
So, again, like this is not a personal account of his. He interviewed people.
Yeah.
And all we did was tell our stories.
Yeah.
So if she's offended by, by the fact that we're telling these stories, I'm offended by the fact that you are dismissing my experience.
Yeah. And then, on the other side of things too, we've had like my daughter who is at UPenn right now. She's finishing this year. She has lived through all kinds of discrimination and intimidation by people that were, riding on her campus, riding and being really, really terrible towards people who they considered to be Zionists because they had an anti-Zionist agenda. Mm-hmm. And, that kind of thing it's like we're getting it from both sides.
Yeah.
It's like we're getting it from, and this is coming from an illiberal left.
Well, yeah. He addresses that in the back of the book too, that and you have to be able to be honest about where it's all coming from. You have people of Palestinian lineage who are being attacked. You have people of a Jewish lineage who are being attacked on both sides, and it's just going around and around, and it's bad and all. And we have to be able to be honest about it and have these conversations. Yeah. And I think that's why, for me it was a hard read because it's so personal. And especially now that I know you, like I said, I spoke to you before I completed reading the book, and I thought about you the whole time when I was, reading the parts about Blaze, and I have no idea how you made it through.
Well, this is part of my sanity, is trying to make sense of this world, is by bringing people in here that are the people that can change things because they actually care about seeing a better world. Yeah. Because a lot of people are so busy trying to survive here, they can't worry about that. Yeah. And then there's a lot of people here that are so busy trying to survive here that they don't really have the time to really consider any of these issues, and they just go with whatever they're told. Yeah. It's like kind of like the sheep mentality. It is. They don't really kind of like, even there are people in my family that are sheep. Yeah. They just, they're just shallow thinkers. They don't want to go too deep on these issues, and they just want to live. They don't want to worry about this stuff. Until it affects them.
Until it affects them.
Until it affects you directly, you're not worrying about it or caring about these issues.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem, and why it continues on and on and on is because everybody just, turns away from it, like you said, unless it affects them directly. We don't want to hear each other's stories. We don't want to know how this is affecting others. It's just, and that's definitely part of the problem. And I'm hoping that by talking about it, by bringing it out to the open, one of the things for me was in the book, there were other people from Ladera who gave their stories, and knowing that it's not misery loves company, but knowing that others, were feeling the same way, or going through the same experiences. And I knew they were, but I was glad to see that some people were coming out and sharing those experiences as well. Yeah. And, saying this is not okay. And like I said, I know that not everybody there is like that. You have a community of people who stood up for a family. Mm-hmm. And I've seen that there were people who in the schools would stand up for kids, but not enough of us do that. Yeah. And I'm trying to look at the book, even though, like I said, for me, it was hard to get through some parts because it's true and it's real. And we still have to be able to read those, the ugly parts and the hard parts. But one of the things that I try to take away from it is I feel like coming out of those experiences, I appreciate good people and beautiful things and beautiful moments so much more now because
it does make you appreciate the people that don't have to get involved, and they decide that they will because they're just decent. They're good.
Oh my goodness. Let me tell you, I don't know if we have time, but there was an incident that happened with me and my son, not in Ladera, but in Orange County. We were in a bookstore, and we were standing in line waiting to pay for a couple of books. And a gentleman came in the line behind us, and then a woman came behind him. And out of nowhere, she asked the guy standing right behind me, she said, did these people cut in front of you? She pointed to me and my son. And the guy looks at me, I look at him, and we're both like completely perplexed. Like, where did that come from? Why would she even assume? Oh, wow. And it got ugly where she just, she got mad that I questioned why she would say something like that to us. And I said, this is just typical. You just looked at us and assumed. And she was offended by that insinuation, and she starts going off on me and saying things like, how dare you? And I have every right to question whether or not you belong here. And in that moment, I realized she didn't mean the line. She just didn't want me in that space, probably in this world at all, in what she considered her space. And it got really bad. Like, my husband came up and found me pretty much almost in tears and screaming at this woman, and he was like, my wife doesn't need to cut in front of you. And and she looked right at my husband, who was an African American man, and she said, I'm threatened by you. I'm going to call the cops. Because he was defending me in the bookstore. And I remember that's when I lost it, because I just thought, oh my God, if she calls the cops, we know how this can go. And two women standing in line right away got out and, placed themselves like right in front of me. And they were told her point blank. Up to this point, I had never said the word to her, but we were all thinking it. And they said, you're being racist. And she said, how am I being racist? And they're like, you don't see what you're doing? You accuse this woman of cutting in line. Her husband comes up to defend her. You right away claim he's threatening you for defending his wife and that you're going to call the cops on him. And I will never forget them, because nobody else said anything. But these two did. And it was two white women. I believe they were a couple. Mm-hmm. And they just would not, I remember they stood with us until we left the store, and they were like, we're not going to stand here and watch this happen. And I just thought,
Yeah.
I remember people like that.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you didn't have to. Maybe you should. I certainly have been that way. I felt like, for kids in the school when I saw them being bullied. But I don't see a lot of people, taking the time to call out what they see is what is wrong. And so I just appreciate that.
I know. I wish I saw more of this stuff and could call it out.
Yeah.
I wish I was present when that happened and I could stand up and say that's ridiculous.
It is, and I don't want to be too judgmental either. It's not always, easy to jump into a situation that you're not sure maybe what's going on, or you're scared because these days you never know how people are going to react.
I mean, look at what happened to that man with the immigration stuff.
Oh, trying to defend a woman, and now his life
and the way it was characterized.
Yeah.
I just it just makes my head hurt when I think about the lying that had to go on to try to even to insinuate that he was he was a terrorist. It was not what happened. And
look, to some of us, what happened to him was nothing new. To some of us, this has been happening for decades, generations, and the lies that come along with it, that they're terrorists, they're bad people, they were causing trouble, when all you're doing is really standing out there as an American citizen, using your American right to speak up against something, an injustice.
Yeah.
But they did to him what they've been doing to African Americans and people of color and Native people in this country for decades, and for generations.
He's not any of those. He was a white male that happened to.
No, well, it goes back to, to that, what's that saying, they didn't,
I know what you're
yeah,
talking
you know
about.
what I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't want to get it wrong.
The priest says, that when they came for the Jews, I didn't say anything.
Yeah, and they eventually will come for everyone.
They came for me.
Yeah, eventually. Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, if it's happening to one of us, believe me, it can, and most likely it will happen to all of us.
Yeah,
and like you said, everybody turns away because it doesn't affect them. Guess what? You should have feelings about when you see something happening to someone else, because that could very well be you.
That's right.
Very well, maybe.
That's right.
Very soon. So.
And that comes back to empathy, which I think a lot of people are lacking these days. I don't think we're really doing a good job of teaching kids how to be empathetic.
Yeah.
Or even like the social emotional learning. We should have it in
schools.
Thank
you. Yes, for saying that. Yeah.
I think that there's a mandate that we have it, but nothing's been implemented. There's a lot of mandates for the school, for our educational system, that have not happened. I mean, they're also supposed to have, good sex education in schools. That was mandated. And I don't know if they've ever actually put any teeth into that law.
Right.
That makes it, mandatory and actually happening. I don't know, how we can make things better without having more cooperation.
We can't. And we need to value things like emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
As much as we do, every other
absolutely
form of intelligence.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So empathy is a big
thing.
deal. Yeah.
And why aren't people more curious about other people? Like, why aren't we curious about people that live in Central America? Mm-hmm. Why don't we know more about what their lives are like?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of us have people from these countries that are our colleagues, that we go to school with, that have lived experience that we aren't learning from.
Right.
Because we aren't asking questions, we're not talking, and we're not listening. But we probably know about every line in the Hamilton musical, and all this other pop culture that's so important to us. So
yeah, because as humans, we tend to gravitate towards what is most like us, and we forget, like I said, to look outside our little bubble, our little world. But the world we live in a global world now, and that is what what they're fighting.
People are fighting.
People are fighting that. But that is the reality of where we are, and we're going to continue to be. You can't put this back in the box that it was in. It's out, and it's not. I am baffled by the fact that anybody would think that that's a bad thing.
Yeah. You're a book author. You write children's books.
I have one children's book, and
Why only one?
I know. I need to do more. I definitely need to do
Was it
more
hard?
because no, and that's the thing. Like I keep telling Jeannie that I have no idea why I'm here because I feel like I just kind of fell into this position. Everything that I have done, I feel like I just kind of did it without planning. Like back when I did this magazine, I mentioned that growing up in Belize, I didn't see a lot of characters in books that look like me, and I was an avid reader. I've always been into books. It's my thing.
Yeah, well, that's why you're educated and your children are too.
Yeah. But I grew up, loving these picture books. My mom, who was living in the United States at the time, she would send boxes of books.
Oh, how
for
lucky
me.
for you.
I know. So I would sit there and I would play teacher and, read to my dolls and all this stuff. I know. But I never really saw characters that looked like me. And I never thought about the fact that was psychologically affecting me in any way. But there was a story that I told in there where my cousin and I each got dolls for Christmas one year. And my mom had sent me this beautiful doll with brown skin and curly hair. And my cousin had gotten this beautiful doll with blonde hair and blue eyes. And I didn't want mine. I wanted her because I didn't think that she was as beautiful. And she was, nobody's ever said to me, that doll is more beautiful, but I think that, you internalize that when all you see
it's the programming.
It's the programming. It's when you don't see images of yourself in society,
yes,
you also start to take that in as I'm not as good as, I'm not important, I'm not beautiful. And I never realized that when I was a child. You don't think that way.
Well, just so you know, for the brunettes out there, we feel the same way you do.
Right?
I always wanted the blonde doll too.
Right. But children of color, and especially, I read somewhere that what children's books that have been published, I think this was a study that came out in 2023, only like less than 12% of the books had like a lead character that was a black character, and when it comes to Native, characters, I think it was like 1%.
And that has to do with the fact that the authors of these books are probably not of these ethnicities,
which also needs to be addressed because there's not a lack of us out there. There are so many wonderful.
But you only wrote one book, and
I did.
You need to write more.
I know, and you know what? I've turned into somebody who it's not just about my book. I try to promote other authors and other people who do great things. Like I'm going to mention. Sharnae Gordon, who is an author who writes books that are about diversity. And she has these wonderful, books that show, children of color and addresses those issues.
Me too.
She doesn't just promote her books. She also, promotes other people of color who are writing, wonderful books out there for children that, we should all be so lucky to have in our school libraries or our home libraries. And then on top of that, she has an organization called 50 States, 50 Books.
Oh,
and
cool.
So what she does is, I'm not sure if it's monthly or every few months or how often she does it, but she collects books from around, I send her books whenever I have them, or she also takes donations so she can purchase books, and she puts together these packages with 50 books, and she sends one off every month. Like I said, I don't know if it's every month, but as often as she does, she sends one off to each state, an organization or a school in each state.
Oh, cool.
So everybody gets these books, and they're diverse, they're beautiful, they're wonderful. And I think that's so important because, like I said, when I was growing up, I didn't have that. And the reason I wrote my book was when I had my daughter, I was like, I want her to see, at least have one book. Well, there was more by then.
Can you make money making children's books?
So
that's part of why you haven't done it again.
Well, I self-published this book, and I did it just for her. It was a little project that ended up becoming something bigger than I intended it to.
You weren't ready for it.
No, I honestly, I wrote this book, and you want to talk about synchronicities. Like I took a class with a writer who was doing like one of those UCLA, what do you call it? they offer classes to
like
the
a
public.
screenwriting class or whatever it might be.
And I took a class with this author, and years later, I happened to run into him again.
Of course.
And he was like, you can try to send your manuscript, into, traditional publishing houses. I can tell you how it's going to go.
Yeah.
It has nothing.
Opal file.
Yeah, right. And he said, or you can, if you really want to do this, you can publish it yourself, and I can help you.
Yeah.
So, and he can see, because he's a traditionally published author, and he's also a self-published author, and he's like, I know exactly how to do it, and I can help you do it. You can hire me as a consultant. I'll tell you exactly what you need to, it needs to get done.
You made it happen.
Yeah, he introduced me to the illustrator. He helped me publish the book. And I started, getting it out to just family, friends, and here and there. And a couple of bookstores was like, yes, I'll carry it. And I think Sharnae, who I was talking about earlier, was one of the first people that's like, I will show your book. Because she, like I said, she promotes books.
So she ordered them and sent them.
And after that, it just started kind of taking off. And next thing I knew, I had people, I was from like Australia or France. They're like, oh, I'd like to order your book. I had a bookstore in the UK who's like, I'm interested in seeing your book.
So people were buying your book.
Yeah, but like I said, it literally was something that I was like, whoa, what's happening here?
But you weren't ready to have an empire.
Yeah, I don't even know if
maybe now.
Maybe, yeah. So I need to get on that. Yeah, build that empire.
I actually have somebody I'm going to connect you with.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am.
I
think that I see some potential here.
Yeah.
Some real synergy. I'm excited for this. Anyway, so wow. So you're an author who becomes part of somebody else's book.
Yeah.
And for very different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because you need to have people be more literate in this narrative.
Yeah.
But it's an important story.
It's very, very important stories told in that book. And like I said, I genuinely believe that we cannot, we're talking about you want solutions. We cannot come up with solutions. We can't even begin to talk about that until you address what's going on. And I think that that's a good start.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
what would you say to other mothers that are experiencing the kind of exclusion that you felt?
Oh my gosh. For me, I found that, and I know this is going to sound so la la land, but I've tried to teach my kids their culture, their history, a love for themselves, to be strong, to stand up for themselves.
So that's important.
Well, that is really important. And it's funny, I was listening to one of your podcasts last night, and you had a gentleman on who's a musician.
Yes, great call.
And but something he said in there was he was bullied as a child.
Yeah.
Do you remember that part? And he said that one time he just got tired one day of it, and he stood up to his bully and he said he punched him in the face. And that I always tell my children, you have to stand up for yourselves. I'm not talking about physically fighting unless you have to defend yourself for real. But, I think I started showing them that you're going to have to speak up, and you're going to have to, stand up for yourself. And there's something of maybe that motherly instinct, because believe it or not, I'm a very shy person. And I grew up I was the kid in school who would hide away behind a book. And, do you know what I mean?
That was me too.
Yeah. So speaking out in public or anything like that was not for me.
Wasn't for me either. I didn't want to be. I did not need to be in the spotlight. I was okay just doing my thing with my kids.
Yeah.
But I wanted my kids did not like it when I charged into the school angry.
Yeah.
In fact, they stopped telling me about things that were happening because of it. Because I guess, I don't know what it was, but they didn't like me bringing that energy to the problems. Yeah. They wanted to handle it on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So, which was kind of just,
and as mama bears, we're like, yeah.
I mean, I was down there screaming when the air conditioning was broken, but it was working in the office. That infuriated me.
Right.
Like when my kids were dying in their classroom, but oh, look at that. Everybody in the office here is nice and cool.
Right.
I noticed you just had your air conditioning repaired. Why didn't you think to, fix the one for the kids?
Right.
Like, it was like those kinds of things that like would just drive me crazy. Like unfairness. I don't like any type of unfairness in situations where there are public resources that are not being distributed fairly.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem right to me.
No, unfairness in general. I think I
Hate
was
it.
like, I was always very shy, but my mom always, she reminds me all the time. She was like, you were shy until it was time to like, speak up against unfairness, because I just could not ever take it.
Well,
It's just,
we need to hear your voice.
yeah.
We need to hear everybody's
I think
voice.
I was going to say, we need to hear everybody's voice.
do.
We need these issues are not going to get resolved until we all become a part of the solution.
Well, I think people need to see our faces and see, that we are the people that are affected by these things. Maybe 99% of the people that live here are not affected by it, but guess what? There
I
are
think
people
they
that
are. I think they are. See, that's the problem, is that people think that it's not my problem because I'm not affected.
Yeah.
There are so many incidents that have happened that I've seen happen down here. When my son was playing football one day, we had to stop the game because some of the kids started screaming the N-word on the other team.
And that's not okay.
And everybody's sitting there going, oh, that's not my problem. But I'm like, it is your problem because it's your child doing it. Is this really who you want your kids to be?
Wow.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess
Like,
they didn't have a problem with their kid doing that.
well, no, the mom actually came up and apologized. And it was one of those things again where she said, I don't know where he learned that.
Oh,
and I'm
stop
like,
it.
yeah.
And I had a friend in high school that was black.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really helpful, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But again, that's what I'm saying. Do you really want your kid being that kid?
Yeah.
Is that it does affect you. This stuff affects all of us. To sit here, the way I
Absolutely.
look at bigotry and racism is, I always, you always have the people who are like, oh, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect me. I see it as like, if you're standing in the middle of a shower and the water is splattering everywhere and somehow you think it's not falling on you because you're off in a little, like, it affects all of us. Believe me, it touches all.
That's right, because it's in our environment.
It is.
And even like that shower, you might not be in the shower, but it's making the room really humid
Yeah,
and really hot.
it's going to affect you.
You're
that you
affected.
are, your kids are affected. I don't care how, like you said, Ladera Ranch, your community is affected. Do you really want this to be your community?
Well, people will move, and it will affect your property values when people don't want to live here.
Right. In every way. And like I said, I'm really big on teaching my kids. It's not, on empathy, because I don't want my kids coming home one day and find out that they were the kid picking on, the gay kid or the Jewish kid or the disabled kid or anything like that. Why would you want your kids to be that? Why would you want to teach your kids that? And by not teaching your kids, you're teaching your kids, by the way, by not speaking up and saying this is wrong, or, having these conversations before it happens.
Yeah.
Because believe me, the people who think it's not happening in their neighborhoods, guess what? That's exactly where it's happening.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I know that both of us are not political people, and we don't really like talking about politics.
Yeah,
That's
we
really
talked
not
about
our
that
thing.
before, which is weird because if you go on my social media, I know I have a big mouth.
Well,
I tend to, but I have become that way because I feel like the stuff that's happening now directly affects communities that I know, and
There are
not just that,
issues.
and I just
issues.
think like, look, I don't know how you can live in this country right now and be an American citizen who cares about this country and not feel like you should be a part of it somehow.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's become more than,
I mean, you've got to have an opinion.
you have an opinion, and I feel like I don't like what I see happening to a country that I genuinely love. I moved here from, I have a birth country and I have an adopted country. And people like me, that's the other thing. People always think, immigrants there's this narrative that we come here to just take advantage of this country. Let me tell you something. The process alone that we have to go through to become American citizens, you have to take a test. You have to study the history. There are a lot of immigrants.
This is legal.
Yeah. And that's the goal of every immigrant. The process is not easy, so it's not like you come
here. You have to really want it.
Yeah, you really do, and it's a long process, and it takes years and years for some people, and
you don't take it for granted when you've done that work.
You don't. Yeah, you really don't, and that is the goal of everyone that I know who has come to this country. Nobody wants to come here and be a criminal, as they try to put it. And to be honest with you, I gotta tell you, if you are in this country undocumented, you are probably the most law-abiding citizen or person, right? Because you do not want someone to call the cops or any authority figure on you. You are not even jaywalking.
Well, I think it's probably like a really extreme thing. You're right. You're probably, if you've come here and you really do want to be a citizen here and escape hardship from your country of origin, you're going to stay under the radar, right?
You're not trying to bring that kind of attention on yourself.
If you're here for other reasons and you actually don't care about becoming a citizen here, and you are a criminal, then you're probably going to be gung-ho doing crime.
Right.
And we've seen that.
Right. And that happens.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, the majority of the people that we're talking about, that is not who they are. And I think most people understand that. It's the truth. Most of us are not that. Most people, like I said, everybody I know, they come here and they are working hard. They are trying to become, a part of this country, and they are contributing.
In your lived experience, that's true, because in California we have a lot of immigrants from Central America, Mexico, South America, and those people come here because they want to have a better life, because they need to send money to their families, for all those reasons. But in other parts of the country, like what's happening in Minnesota right now, like a lot of that, I think, has more to do with people coming here from other countries, like Africa, Northern Africa. And like they were saying that.
How is that different?
It's not different. It's the same in a lot of ways, but when they're coming here, they're not coming here to assimilate and be part of this country. And sometimes they are.
In Minnesota, the majority of those people, if you're talking about the Somali people, actually, I think I read somewhere about 75% of them are people who have become, like, they have assimilated into American, 75%. Something like that. And I mean, these are people that it's the same. It's never been any different in America. Immigrants come here for the same reason. For the same reason. Whether you're a European immigrant, you're an African immigrant, you're a Central American immigrant, we all are here for the same reason. Yes, you are going to get those people who come here and, do bad things. That's true in every group. I know people right here who are born citizens who have done bad things.
Of course.
Who,
my son was born here.
Exactly, an American citizen. And there are many like him.
Homegrown, right? That's what
right
they call
here.
them.
So every group you're going to have that. But this narrative that's been put out there that the majority of us are here to harm Americans, to take your jobs. First of all, most Americans don't want to do the jobs that undocumented immigrants are doing.
Those jobs will be gone because we'll have robots doing those jobs in the next.
We're all in trouble.
We're all in trouble. And like, I hit on this briefly when we first started talking that, I think some of this is like kind of in preparation for like these big changes, these big shifts that are coming, that we're not going to have these jobs that people come here for, to get, that Americans don't want to do. Well, those jobs are going to be gone. And the jobs that the Americans do want to do, those jobs are going to be gone too.
Well, right.
They're all going to be gone. Yeah. So
even if I wanted to go back into the classroom one day, it might not be possible.
Right. There may not be a way to be in a classroom because they'll have a robot. The robot will stand there and zap your kid when they don't do their work. Wouldn't that be nice?
Oh, God.
Or maybe we'll just put like a zap on the seat and all of a sudden the seat will electrify when you're not doing your work.
Jeannie, you're scaring me.
This could be a great this could be a great new world that we're looking at here.
God.
Who knows? But yeah, I think that as far as like all of this stuff goes with, you know, left, right, center, like I mean, at least for me, I'm about, you know, humanity. Like,
Well, yeah.
you know, like trying to make sense of the way that we do things here, so that we are preserving our humanity, and we're not treating people like cogs in a machine.
Well, I think, you know what you said earlier when you said, you know, neither one of us really likes to get political, but one of the things I've learned is politics is life.
Can be, yeah.
And I mean, because it's issues that affect people's lives.
That's right. Like,
so, you know,
absolutely.
and ultimately that's about being, you know, a decent human being. Are we you know, really caring for those around us?
Yeah.
Are we really taking into account the lived experiences of people and who they really are and how things affect them? So yeah, that it always goes back to our humanity.
Yeah.
You know, is it humane to rip families apart?
I don't think so.
You know,
I don't think so. But
do we have an immigration problem? Yes. Do we need to address that? Yes. Is this the way to do it?
I know there has to be a better way to address the people that need to leave, and you know, I hope it happens someday.
Yeah.
I hope we can figure out a way to get people out.
Well, it was happening. I think, look, this is not the first president that has tackled immigration. Other presidents have.
Yeah.
And, you know, and they have deported people. The difference is, you know, they were going after people with criminal records for real. And also, you know, I read that, you know, President Obama deported more than 3 million people, but the majority of those people were people he was turning back at the border. Yeah. And then the others were, you know, people who actually had criminal records.
Yeah.
But, you know, what we all know now, let's be honest about it. The people that they're coming after, these are not people with criminal records.
They're not. They really aren't.
So there's a way to do it. And, you know, I think
harassment, really.
It really is.
It's really what it comes down to. You're just harassing people that are just trying to live, survive.
Yeah.
And it's just so miserable. Such a miserable thing to do. I mean, and it's coming from a place of affluence too. Like that's where it's coming, because I don't think there are very many immigrant families who are legally here that think that this is okay.
No.
Even though they may have gone through a difficult process to do it legally. And they might not like it that people get to walk across the border and don't have to go through the hardship that they went through to be a legal immigrant, right?
Well, maybe you might find people like that, but I think for the most part, people just understand that people are trying to better their lives. You know, I'm not sitting there thinking about, you know, oh, I had to do it the right way, so you better. I mean, like, I also understand that people are, when you are trying to survive, you do what you need to do. Yeah. Do you think it's easy for a family to decide I'm going to cross a river or ocean
or their place of origin?
Nobody wants to leave their place of origin. You do that because you feel like you have to for some reason. So I'm not sitting here judging other people for why they're coming here or how they're coming here. All I know is when you come here, yes, I want you to be, you know, a model citizen in terms of I want you to work and I want you to contribute to society in a positive way. And I want you.
The immigrants that are the problem. No, it's not. It's people that become entitled that live here, and that
there you go.
And it has nothing to do with where your parents came from. It comes from the fact that you have lived in this country. You were born here, and now you feel entitled.
Yeah, this is mine. Well, and this is mine,
problem.
And to be honest, it's really weird too, because there are presidents that have opened up the border that have, you know, led to the influx of immigrants. But why did they do that? Maybe you need a new working class. And so when you need to use these people for, you know, for your purposes, then, you know, fine, let them over. And when we no longer need them, it's like, get out, it's mine.
That's funny.
It's so.
I mean, hey, we had plenty of immigrants here when we were building a railroad.
Right.
Hey, maybe that's what we need to do in California. Maybe they should take all these people that they're complaining about being here illegally and have them ask if they want to work on the railroad that we supposedly have paid for. That has not happened yet. We have jobs.
Right. For as long as we can before
Right.
the robots.
Right. Before the robots get here. And that being said, I think we're going to end it right here. All right. It's been great having Shereen in the studio with us today.
It's been wonderful.
And we could probably talk for another 5 hours.
my goodness,
In fact, we're going to go to lunch and probably talk for another hour. But unfortunately, we have a lot of construction going on the street right outside the studio today. So it's been on and off for the last half hour, and we're going to call it a day for today. But it's been great. And I would like to have you come back. Either I'm going to have you come back to be on a panel, or we're going to have you come back with Eric, or we're going to have you just come back so that we can finish talking about the book.
Would love it.
And your experiences here.
Yeah.
And I think that there's still a lot we need to cover. So
Yeah. We have a lot to talk about.
Let's do
And
that.
to be continued.
To be continued. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeannie.
Blaze It Forward is a campaign my family started in 2018 after our son Blaze was murdered. Blaze It Forward provides the inspiration to thousands of people to repair the world with intentional acts of kindness. If you would like to learn more about Blaze and how you can make a difference, check out www.blazebernstein.org or join our Facebook group at #BlazeItForward. You can also check out my website for this podcast at www.PeppTalksWithJeannie.com. There you can follow along with my podcasting adventures and learn more about my fascinating guests and their passion projects. I would like to thank all of the volunteers who help make my philanthropic endeavors a reality. Today that includes my producer, Eli Moskowitz, all of the volunteer crew members who join us, and a special thank you to my son, Jay Bernstein, for the original theme song you hear at the beginning and ending of each show. This has been another episode of Pep Talks with Jeannie. Until next time, keep on making this world a better place.